Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome Travis Manceaux. He's the CEO of Perc Development. Perc is a company that deals with restoration and commercial industrial projects, all kinds of different projects and big projects. The company started, I believe, in 2010. Is that right, Travis?
That's correct.
Good.
October 2010.
October, a day that will live in infamy, right? Tell us the story. How did you guys, and you hooked up with your partner, Taylor? I mean, how did you guys start this business?
Yeah, so kind of a odd starting. I've been in construction all of my life. My father was a general contractor, and I actually worked with the family business in 2008 time frame. Taylor and I had been talking about doing something in the development space, wanting to do something speculative homes, renovations, etc. My dad's company did not really participate in those spaces, and so 2010 rolls around, we decide to go for it and at least try our hand in that. So that's ultimately where we started. It was really a side business, I would say, to the main family business that I was a part of.
Right. And then now, but it's grown significantly over the years. What kind of scope of projects are we tackling today?
Yeah, so 2012, I left the family business, went out and worked for some other GCs. Taylor and I kept doing our development projects, and they were small, kind of hobby projects at the time, stuff that we really liked, restoring old home, doing infill development projects. And along the way, I decided that I was going to leave working for other people and decided I wanted to just work for myself full time. Taylor and I had this business that was gaining traction and reputation, decided to bring that other business that I was doing elsewhere over to the Perc Development fold. And so we started growing it there. That was 2019, the beginning of 2019. Since then, we've grown pretty substantially from about $2 million in 2019 or 2018 to, just under 30 million, today. So yeah, been a heck of a ride. We've gotten to participate in a lot of different projects, both private and public sector. Again, things that I was already doing before.
Right.
So we just finished a really cool restaurant on our lakefront here in Lake Charles, Crying Eagle. It's one of the larger projects that we did, even for it being a restaurant. It was a large project, and it's just hit the ground. They're still in their soft opening and moving into grand opening here soon.
Excellent. And what's the geographical area around New Orleans that you'll reach out from?
Yeah, so Lake Charles is our primary area, and then we also service Lafayette area as well. That's our two primary, and I would say state of Louisiana, but
Okay.
we're right here along the I-10 corridor, and primarily Lake Charles and Lafayette.
Okay, excellent. Now, how do you currently kind of get attention and get this business? That's a $30 million bump in the last 6 years is significant. How'd you do it?
I would say brand awareness is a big part of it.
Brand
One of
stuff,
the things
great.
that's always been very important to us, even as a construction company, was a brand, a reputation that stood for something that you could see even in just identification of a logo or a brand. And so that's been a big part of it. And just doing what we say that we're going to do, consistently providing good projects. A lot of what I set out to do personally and a goal of mine as CEO of this company was to do things different than what we saw the industry doing historically. So treating people like they're our partners and not our adversaries, being a good steward of the industry. So just trying to do simple things really well.
Yeah, very good. What does the process look like if someone's reaching out and they've got land they want to develop on, they want to build something on? What does the process look like with your company?
Biggest thing that we try to tell people or help educate them on is the pre-construction process. We believe that projects don't go wrong, they start wrong. So if we can start projects right, then that gives everyone, all stakeholders, a leg up on having a successful project. So when we look at projects, a lot of government projects, not all, but a lot of are delivered through a design, bid, build, delivery process. We much prefer things like construction management at risk or design build, where we can be part of and impact the design from a constructability standpoint, from a budget standpoint, and also building rapport with the client. So anytime that all stakeholders and parties are sitting at the table and I'm able to look across the table at you and I understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, then that gives me the ability to truly impact that differently. I make sure that I bring the right trades to the table, right? We're not going to just bring every trade to the table because not all are going to be right. Even even through the design process, we can help impact and or be a collaborative partner with the design teams, whether that's architects or engineers, to ensure that they're the right partner for the job, or that they really understand what we believe the client to be understanding. More times than not, in the design bid build process, we get plans that are not really what the client wants, or they don't even know what they're getting in there, and there's just a massive disconnect. And it's hard for all of us in a really tough industry to be successful at projects that people aren't really fully engaged in or even understand what they're getting.
It totally makes sense. I mean, if you start out right, you have less confusions, bottlenecks. That's not what you said you were going to do, and taking the time to do that. Now, you've brought in like your own architect to help on this process too. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we'll partner with and or collaborate.
Right.
We don't have architects in house, but
Mhm.
we work with a number of local regional architects, and really appreciate and value the work that they do. But we bring the constructability side, where it's not just going to work on paper. We can work to make it work in the real world.
Good. Absolutely. Now, when you take on a project and you're working through with somebody, I'm sure you have various checkpoints along the way. Are those face to face, a Zoom call? Do you go on site? From your position as CEO, or does Taylor do these types of things just to kind of oversight of the bigger picture on projects?
Yeah, so us currently, as we are set up, I do actually go on site for various projects, and for a number of different reasons. But underneath me on the construction side is our director of construction, and he oversees all of the projects, all of the superintendents and project managers. Then we have our project managers, who would be, full time to whatever project that they're on. They may have multiple projects, but they're the primary contact point inside of our organization. And then generally every project gets a full time superintendent who's there day in and day out, making things go. And then we also have our general superintendent, who is managing all of our superintendents and moving around from job to job. So there's definitely a hierarchy there. But on our larger projects, anything that's a little more complex or needed to be a little bit more forward facing with the client, I definitely step at least in and out of those OAC meetings. And our meetings range from weekly to bi-weekly to once a month, just depending. And I try to move around and hit each of them as I can. Doesn't always allow for that, but I do try to do my best to get out on site and be right there with the guys, boots on the ground.
Right. Absolutely. Now, being where you're located in Louisiana, you've had your fair share of weather, catastrophes, disasters. How have you guys managed through those types of periods?
It's we went through a really challenging period. I mean, Lake Charles, I think, was deemed the most weather battered city in the U.S. back in 2020, 2021. I think we had 2 or 3 major hurricanes hit directly on us, ice storm, 1,000-year floods. Just went through a number of different things. But the beauty is that we're very resilient people here. It was kind of interesting in 2020 at the time of the pandemic, and a lot of kind of divisiveness, I would say, throughout the country, to see people really almost forget that was going on and all pull and band together to restore our community. And so there was really a lot of beauty in it. Even though there was such destruction after Hurricane Laura, there was a lot of beauty in seeing people come together and pull resources together and help one another. So
Very good. Very good. And the resiliency is definitely what you hear about people from the area and what they've gone through. My background is I'm a physical therapist by training, and I've been a healthcare consultant for 25 plus years. We've had several clients in Louisiana that's been through a complete devastation and rebuild. And resilient is probably the best word I can describe these people, of like, get up, dust yourself off, get busy, and perhaps others wouldn't take it so well. So well done that you have a community that backs each other up in these types of things. Now, if we look at the scope of what Perc does as far as its development, construction jobs and things like that, what's the small end of the scope and kind of the largest end of the scope that you guys have done?
Yeah, so the range is pretty broad. Really, for us at this stage, we work to stay away from things that are really too small. We don't believe that we are always the best fit, but when it's a client, repeat customer, I mean, if they want us to change a light bulb for them, we change a light bulb for them, so we'll take care of whatever. Sometimes too, we kind of put this into different boxes. So I look at things as pre-construction, construction, and then even post-construction. So having in a kind of almost more maintenance mindset when it comes to post-construction, smaller, renovations, et cetera. But as far as for our construction side, our typical clients that we go after are really, I consider them facilities, right? So people that do projects on a professional basis, they do projects all the time. So we're talking airports. We have, one of the top 10 ports in the nation here, medical communities and facilities, et cetera. So those are the types of clients that we generally will target and go after, municipalities, school board, et cetera. So
Okay, so when they put a bid offer that they want offers from, or a request for proposal or something like that, yeah, you guys will answer up on
that's
that
correct.
type of.
Absolutely.
Very good, very good. Now that kind of work would be seemingly different in that, is it generally a low bidder as far as the decision?
It is in a lot of that. If it's publicly funded, a lot of times it is low bidder. One of the things that the state of Louisiana did in the last few years was they moved the threshold for construction management at risk projects from 25 million and up to 5 million and up. Nowadays, in the current landscape, 5 million is not a ton of money, and so a lot of the projects we see now meet that threshold, and so we're starting to see a lot more development in that arena where it is a little more resume based. It's a little more, get to know you based than it is just low bid. We've seen more challenges, more issues with low bid projects. While we've had a lot of successful ones, there's been some that have been not so successful. And we see it in the general landscape of the industry where it is just probably the worst way to try to deliver a project is through a low bid.
Sure, I could only imagine, but now that kind of the window's opening up, that delivering great work, building a good relationship could move you to the, so to speak, the top of the heap, or the others that could be considered. Do you consider that as your role as CEO, that building those kinds of relationships on the public level or municipality level is part of your job these days, or not so much?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. I think business development is always something that all of us should be doing all the time. We are all a brand, whether personally, professionally, et cetera. And so, yeah, just staying in front of people. And I find that for whatever reason, got history in this industry, reputation in this industry, but those things go a long way when you're talking to, maybe the mayor of the city or, a CEO of another company, that they're kind of looking eye to eye with someone who is an equal, if you will, and building that relationship and doing it at a kind of handshake level at that point to be able to get in and get opportunities there.
Very good. It's an interesting thing about integrity. It's almost like when it starts to go, it's like a tarnish that gets on you and it's tough to get off, right? So when you always you deliver what you promise, and when you can't deliver something, you got to communicate it. You got to back it up. You got to keep that connection and honor in place, right? And I can see, like, you as a company, you guys have boom, 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 grown and expand. Now I could see that having in the delivery area. Organizationally, how have you shifted your role from where it was, 4 or 5 years ago, to where it is today? What was your role? What is your role today?
Yeah, so initially starting out a few years back, my role, when it was just even Taylor and I at some point, my role was really the project management side and taking care of that side of things. Taylor was more on the construction and superintendent side of things. And so that kind of naturally grew and developed as time went on. My role was a lot more, I would say, process and task oriented at some point, where, I was going out and selling the job, estimating the job, and then going build the job from a project management level and perspective. And then we brought in our director of construction and started building the organization. And I quickly realized that I went from kind of task and process management to people management. And so I would say a big part of what I do today is in the people management side of things, and really working to be a resource for others. I'm not the project manager on a project, but I may sit down with the project managers and work with them through some kind of a challenge that they're facing, and just use my experience to help progress them.
Yes, very good. Yeah, my background's probably more in operations in large healthcare organizations and private equity world and that type of stuff. And so sometimes, an organization kind of spirals upward, right? And it spirals upward in delivery, and sometimes it doesn't spiral upward with that management leadership arm below the founders of the company. And it sounds like that's kind of an area that you're mastering at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know about mastering. Certainly aware of it. So we have kind of two branches of our our company. So we have our director of construction, which is all things construction operations. And then we have our director of business operations, which is all of our actual business operations. So things like IT, HR, accounting, marketing, sales, all of those things, risk, all fall under that side. Two, I would say, kind of core directors or project managers of those as overarching projects. So my work is really between the two of them for the most part on what it is that they need. Do they need help on the construction operations side? Where can I jump in? Do they need help on the business operations side? Where can I jump in?
Good. And that's good. You're setting up that stronger level, I don't know, a stronger level leadership team. I got all stumbled on my words there, but to lift where they need to be lifting and handle areas underneath them. So that part's fantastic. Hey, let me ask you, Travis, where do you want to see this company in the next few years? I mean, what's the trajectory, the big goal that you're shooting for?
I think ultimately right now, one of the things that we're really doing is, I would say, refining. So we've been in this high level of growth, but we've also plateaued over the last few years. So we've hit a certain dollar amount. We've been kind of hanging around that dollar amount the last 3 years. And so really looking at what does it take to break through those ceilings that are there. And so we're almost in a refinement process right now where we're trying to make sure we have the right people in the right seats and that they are truly trained up, because I believe with the resources that we have, we can probably do revenue of 2 or 3 times what we've got with minimal expansion of personnel. And so how do we get ourselves to the point that we're really refined and working like a well-oiled machine? So to some degree, I would say that we're almost taking a step back from what we have been doing in bringing new people on and aggressively targeting projects where we're being a little more selective about things, and we're really in that refining process right now that I believe will help get us to the next stage of growth after we've kind of hit this plateau.
Very good. Very good. I always kind of look at almost like a triangle. You got quantity, quality, and up at the top, viability. So it's like, at first it's like, I imagine you and Taylor, when you took on the job, starting this business, you'd take any job that came your way. Quantity.
Absolutely.
I got to pay these bills, right? And then it kind of moves into where you niche down. Like, where's our strengths? What do we want to build our reputation around? And then you combine those two, and then, the financial security and everything that comes from being successful kind of mushrooms out from that. But, one of the things that I used to do years ago, again, I told you I was in healthcare. I would take a client on the road. I would go visit another client's office, and I'd take one of my top guys and go, "Hey, you want to go on a trip with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're going to go see Joe Blow's business," right? So we go to spend some time in this other guy's business, and the guy who's with me, he's just a shadow, right? He's just there, and, the other client might know him. And then we end up that 2 or 3 day trip, and we're heading back to the airport, and the guy goes, "I learned so much. I didn't even realize I had the same kind of things going in my own business, but I couldn't see it."
Absolutely.
To this guy's business. And I always say, when you have a problem, it sits right here on your face. And so you have to get it a little bit of distance from your face to have a point of view. And so it's like if we pulled you out of your business and you went to see another business that was very much like yours in every way, you would go pop, 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 pop. These are the changes you should make. And then you go, "Whoa, these might be the changes I should make too." So
what's beautiful about that,
yeah.
John, is that I actually leave in about 2 weeks to head to Ohio. I'm part of a national peer group, and that's exactly what we do. So we actually go, we sit, we look at their operations, we dig through their books, we interview their personnel, and we give them recommendations on things that they can do. And more times than not, and we all say it as a group, we've been together for a few years now, but I'm telling you the things that I really see that I need to be working on in my own organization. So this is actually an exercise we do twice a year all over the country.
It is so good. It's brilliant. So what do you all meet and then you farm out to other locations and check out other people or other businesses?
Yeah. So we're part of the group. There's 9 or 10 of us. It's kind of changed from 8 to 10 is about where it hangs out. But we started this about 2 or 3 years ago. We went on the first trip. We went up to Rockford, Illinois. We got to see a company that had been around for a little over 100 years, I think 104 years at that point. They were 4th generation, got to meet them, interview their people. And then we decided that we wanted to be the next host. Even though we were new to the group, it was like, "Hey, y'all come tell us what we can do better." So they came down to Louisiana and we treated them. So everybody travels in and they'll bring, it's usually CEO and maybe another top leader of their organization that'll come in and they'll just give us feedback. And so this will be probably the 7th or 8th time that we've either, had people come to us or we've gone to others over the last few few years.
That's so good. It's so brilliant because, when I'm a physical therapist, I said, before training, right? But there was one of our instructors at Ohio State, she said, you have to be willing to put your ego in your pocket. And so when you have a business you're darn proud of, and it might be doing better than a lot of other people, but you bring somebody in from the outside, maybe who's built something bigger or just somebody from the outside. And many of us will try to defend the hows and the whys of what we do. And they're not as open to take on and at least understand another viewpoint. So it says a lot about you and your character and kind of your continuous quality mindset to continue to lift Perc Development. That's super well done. Do you and your partner, are both of you guys involved in that, or is it mostly just you?
It's primarily me,
Okay.
and then my director of construction will come, the director of business operations. We've taken some of our senior PMs, and that's just some of that's natural to the roles that we play. And Taylor's not typically it's not that he doesn't want to do those things or doesn't like those things, but just kind of naturally falls in other parts of the business.
Good. I understand. That's a super brilliant thing. I love hearing that. Now, with your growth and your success and your willingness to give back to other people in the community, could you give me a point or two that you think as an entrepreneur, other entrepreneurs should know? The School of Hard Knocks usually has a very high tuition, or you're kind of figuring it out by getting lumped on the head. Could you save somebody some headaches and give us a little bit of advice here, navigate pitfalls that potentially could be there?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. But, I think one is just believing in what the mission is. I think first of all, one of the things we always try to start with, and if you look at most any of our documents that we have or whatever, we start with a why. So why are we here? What are we doing this for? What is our purpose? And for Perc Development, that purpose is we build community. And so how do we get that to be something bigger? And we talk about it all the time. Look, Perc Development is a community in and of itself. Our projects are a community. There's different stakeholders, different trade partners, vendors, etc. And so we want to always try to pick even projects that represent that sense of community. So one that we're really excited and proud about right now is a gymnasium that we're building that we know is going to become a central hub for the community that we're building this for. And so when you're doing things that really feed your soul, it stops being about some of the X's and O's and it really just starts to become something bigger than any individual, right? And so that would be my best advice, is just stay steadfast and put your head down and really know what your why is, what it is that you're targeting and what your intention is. There's going to be wins, there's also going to be losses, and that's part of what helps get you through, some of those tougher times.
Absolutely. You look at purpose, your ability to execute, and your pride in your work, and it can get you to get up every day and come back in, and it creates a team that wants to be there, sticks around for a while, and is into the bigger mission. So Travis, I got to thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast and tell your story. I love talking to successful entrepreneurs and how they've been able to create what they created. If someone wanted to reach out to your company or possibly to you, can you tell us how we could best reach you?
Yeah, so you can look us up online at percdevelopment.com. You can send us an email at info@percdevelopment.com, or you can reach out to me. It's going to be first.lastname@percdevelopment.com.
Very good. Travis Manceaux, Perc Development CEO, thank you so much for being on our podcast today.
Thank you, Sean.
You bet.